I apologize. I'm a bit under the weather, but just really excited. I'll be brief because I know you guys have a lot of questions. Really excited about the staff that we've put together. 108 combined years of recruiting just the state of Texas alone. 17 years of head coaching experience in the high school level in the state of Texas. And so these guys are very well known throughout the state, and that will certainly pay dividends on the recruiting trail. But more than that, they're unbelievable mentors, they're unbelievable teachers, and they are great producers of quality young men and great players. So with that, again, excited to have these guys on board, and whatever questions you guys have, fire away.
Raise your hand. Start right up front with the left, Brian.
Tom, how are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm great.
Good. When the news broke on Tuesday, I guess it was, about Tim Beck being the OC, I mean, the level of negativity on social media was, frankly, overwhelming to me. And what did you make of all that? And do you think that Ohio State fans just pegged him as the scapegoat for Clemson?
Yeah, I was really surprised because it's very well known that Tim Beck didn't call plays at Ohio State, and so whatever. I think that the negativity was misplaced on him. So I mean, I talked to two people I love and trust, and those two people are J.T. Barrett and Cardell Jones, and they think the world of him. And I talked to Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer thinks the world of him. And Tim Beck was extremely successful when he was a play caller at the University of Nebraska. So again, chalk that one up to a lot of misinformation on social media, and I again will never be swayed by any of that because we're privy to a lot more information than what Joe Fan is.
Back right, Ed.
Coach, have you set a plan up for spring practice yet, or can you have any dates available for us? And what you
I
plan
have.
to
They're going to be tentative,
Okay.
Ed, but
Thank
I
you,
do.
Coach.
We're going to start tentatively on March 6th, and we'll get our 2 practices in shorts out of the way, and then we'll go on spring break, and then we'll come back and go 4 straight weeks and finish with the spring game on April 15th.
We're on the left, Danny.
Coach Drayton's resume kind of speaks for himself, but what do you expect that he's going to be able to do with the running backs that you guys have coming back?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was, you want to talk about a home run hire. Coach Drayton and I had an opportunity to work together for 3 years at Ohio State, and I was a coordinator when he was the position coach, and we could run the football. We could run the football for a lot of reasons, and one of the biggest ones was his development of Carlos Hyde and Ezekiel Elliott, and then you go back to even, from the Arian Fosters of the world and the other backs that he's coached, and then you fast forward to this year in the National Football League, the top 2 leading rushers are rookies, one of them being Ezekiel Elliott, who Stan Drayton coached in college, and the other one being, Jordan Howard, who he coached for the Chicago Bears. And so probably the premier running back coach in the country, but a guy that also understands our system. He understands our culture and what we expect of our players. And he, as well, he's going to be my right-hand man. I gave him the associate head coach title for a reason, because I think Stan Drayton is going to be one of the next great head coaches in college football, and that was one of the reasons I think he wanted to come back to the college ranks. Was his goal is to be a college head coach, and I'm committed to showing the world that he's ready to do that.
In the middle, Dennis.
Hey, Coach, we hear the word alignment a lot with you, and how important is it to bring the band back together, so to speak, because you guys are going to be in the trenches? How much does that matter to you?
Scale of 1 to 10, 15, 110%, whatever cliche you want to use to describe utmost importance. It's everything. no offense to all the coaches out there, but there's 2 million coaches in the country that can teach inside zone. There's 2 million coaches in the country that can teach form tackling and teach a zone blitz or teach a press man coverage. Or I mean, this game isn't that hard, and so I'd like to think that it's we'll never have a secret offense or secret defense or any kind of thing that nobody else has. Newsflash, everybody runs zone read, and everybody's in the gun, and everybody runs tempo, and everybody throws the ball downfield, and everybody blitzes and plays, zone blitz and plays a 3-4 and stems to a 4-3. There's no secret offense or defense out there. It's how well do you execute what your offense and defense is, and what's your purpose behind it? Who do you do it for? And do you do it for the love of the guy next to you and for the love of your position coach? And so, going back to your question, you have to have guys going in that room. My job as a head coach, I don't get to coach a position anymore. My job is to coach coaches and to disseminate our culture. And I have to trust that those coaches, when we leave our staff meetings every day and we talk about what the expectations of this program are from a cultural standpoint and from game plan standpoint, whatever it is, I have to trust that those guys go into their 9 position meeting rooms and we're in complete alignment and there's no deviation from that. And these 9 guys, I mean, I rest easy. I put my head down on the pillow every night knowing that that's not anything I have to worry about.
We're here on the left, Mike.
Tom, when you were putting the staff together, how much authority, how much carte blanche kind did you have to pick anybody you wanted, and did you get exactly who you wanted, or did you consider people that you didn't know? And kind of related to that, you're known as an offensive guy. How much of this will be your offense, and how much of it will be Tim's?
The first question, yes. I mean, this is the University of Texas, so the answer is yes. I tell people all the time that coaches and players win games and administrations win championships, and we've got a championship administration and President Greg Fenves and Athletic Director Mike Perrin, and they said, go get the best in the country. And but the best in the country also have to fit within what is expected of them too. I'm not into going and hiring hired guns, so to speak, and because then you lose what we just talked about. You lose that alignment, you lose that trust. And then on your offensive question, yeah, this is not Tom Herman's offense. This is not Tim Beck's offense. This is not Ohio State's offense. This will be the University of Texas's offense, and we will adhere to our kind of core tenets, if you will, in terms of we're going to be a no huddle, up tempo, but I call us we're a pro spread. We run pro concepts both in the run game and the pass game. We just happen to do it from the shotgun, and you have to defend the quarterback run element of it. So Tim knows it very well. I'll be very involved. It'll be very similar to mine and Major's relationship at the University of Houston, where I'm very involved in the game planning week to week. On game day, very involved in personnel decisions, very involved in practice. And then on game day, I've got other responsibilities. I've got to be a head coach, and the defense needs me, the special teams needs me. So Tim will call the game with some suggestions from me, either during a series or in between series. But the job of head coach, in my opinion, is too much on game day to then also have to call plays, play after play after play.
Back middle, Roger.
Hey, Tom, when you left Ohio State and got the Houston job, did you think, I'm an offensive guy, I'll do what we just talked about, and then you saw that the job kind of evolves into you can't be that centric on one particular responsibility? And how's that evolved in your young coaching career?
No, I knew. I knew early as a young head coach that the 2 most important hires that I would make would be my strength coach and my defensive coordinator. And that is still to this day, because your strength coach is your culture coach. He's your guy that's there, that's around these players year-round, which we can't be. He's around them way more than position coaches and certainly the head coach. And then as an offensive guy, you know, I needed to hire the best defensive coordinator in the country. And, you know, no championship has ever been won. I think the lowest a national champion ranked in total defense was in the BCS era was 35th, and that, I think that was Auburn and Cam Newton's year. And obviously I'm kind of off the top of my head. I might be way off base there. So we're going to play tremendous defense around here. And that being said, the offensive part of it, I knew very early that you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. If I was going to try to be the offensive coordinator and play caller and the head coach, I would probably be doing both jobs at disservice, and I wouldn't be as good at either of them as I could be. So my job is to be the head coach, but also make sure that the offense is running the way that I envision it running.
Back middle, Ricky.
One of the first things you mentioned today, Coach, was that your staff has 108 years of experience recruiting Texas. How big of a factor was that when you were assembling this staff versus, you know, actual X's and O's and on-field coaching?
Humongous. Again, you know, there's three criteria that go into hiring and finding great coaches. One is bringing quality student athletes to the University of Texas. So can you recruit? Two is develop your unit. Can you develop your players into better players and technicians at their position, and better husbands and fathers and employees too, the off the field stuff. And then a distant third is how much football you know, because again, I mean, we're not sitting rocket surgery, you know. It's who does it better and more well coached, with more passion and energy and toughness. It's not who's running the secret plays here and there. It doesn't work that way.
On the right, Bob.
Hey, Coach. I know you mentioned in the opening press conference, Craig, as you've known him a long time, and he's had an impact on you just going back to your Texas State days. How important was it to get him here, and more importantly, as a special teams guy, how much do you need him in that position to solidify the special team?
Yeah, I think you must have done your homework. Craig's got an extensive background in special teams. He was a special teams coordinator at Kentucky, was a special teams coordinator at Texas State, at Sam Houston State. So he's got an extensive special teams background. And again, he's the guy I've been around the longest. He's the guy that really stood on the table with David Bailiff to try to help me get my first coordinator job at Texas State. And so he'll be really, really important as we progress here to make sure that side of the ball, that our special teams units are some of the best in the country.
Stay on the right, Alex.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on putting together your staff.
Thank you.
I guess you said earlier it seems like Coach Beck is going to have, you know, autonomy and accountability for the play calling on game day. Is the same going to be said for all of the special teams with Coach Niver? And then just a follow-up question to that, as far as Coach Wareheim, do you see him as more of a zone guy or more of like a manpower kind of gap guy?
The special teams, I'll coach the punt team and call the punt team. I think that's important to do, especially with you know, the ability to fake punt as well as directional punt and pooch punt and all that. And then Craig will coach the other units with help from, I mean, this isn't the NFL. We got to have all hands on deck during special teams periods. And then Derek Wareheim is a get the job done guy. You know, I think we had 11 different starting lineups in our 14 games our first year at the University of Houston, and we went 13-1 and won the Peach Bowl and ran the football very effectively. So he's going to, you know, we're a inside zone and power run football team. That's who we want to be. And so that's what his experiences are. However, you know, we're not into fitting square pegs into round holes either. If if our personnel dictates that we've got to tweak things here and there in the run game, we will. But philosophically, we want to be a downhill A and B gap, inside zone and power football team.
Back at the cameras, Chris.
Tom, you said that Stan Drayton has aspirations to be a head coach. When Todd Orlando was interviewed after Houston's bowl game, he said that he took this job because he thought it'd be a good stepping stone to being a head coach. How many of your coaches have that aspiration? What does it say about the staff that you're putting together, and what are your thoughts on them wanting to become coaches?
They
head
better
coaches?
all have it. If they don't want to be a head coach, then why are you doing it? You know, if you don't want to be the best at your craft, then you're probably a bit misguided. So I think all 9 guys, I think, aspire to be college head coaches, and I think to varying degrees they would all have success doing that. And so I do think it's my job, a very tertiary job, but one that I take very seriously, and that's to prepare those guys and teach them the things that were taught to me as to how to succeed in that role as head coach.
On the left, Steve.
Coach, Happy New Year to you. Welcome.
You too. Thanks, Steve.
It took you a while to.
Do you like tertiary? That's kind of my Rice
Tertiary,
word,
I
right?
like that.
Anybody? We used to call them Rice words when I was at Rice. You know, words that flew over our heads.
It took you a little while once you got the staff, or you were trying to figure out exactly where the pieces were going to fit with the staff. Was that just something you were waiting to fill out the last 2 jobs to get that done? And then the second question, Coach, has it really hit you yet, what you've got here? I mean, when we were driving in today, you look at the stadium. I mean, this is all yours now. Has it really hit you?
The first part, yeah, I wanted to make sure that as we, kind of narrowed down, and you only get 9 coaches, and I wanted to make sure that they were the best 9 available regardless of position. So I didn't want to put a label on a guy and then say, well, wait a minute, this guy can coach the same position, but we need him for recruiting and for player development. Okay, well, let's make this guy the whatever's coach. So that was the reason there. I've had two whoa moments as the head coach so far at the University of Texas. One of them was walking into that press conference and seeing Edith Royal and DeLoss Dodds and Mac and Sally Brown there to watch me talk. That seems silly to me even to this day, that those people would be anywhere just to hear me talk. And the second was actually just about an hour ago. My assistant, Casey Johnson, handed me a print from a guy named Reagan, I believe. What is that? Reagan Januza. Yeah. Print of Longhorns running, and at the bottom of it were the signatures of all of the head coaches at the University of Texas since Darrell Royal, including Darrell Royal. And so for me to put my signature on a painting that included Darrell Royal and Mac Brown's signature, that was whoa. I mean, I went like real fine print, like in the bottom right corner. I'm not gonna mess with their signature. So, but beyond that, other than those 2 moments, I think you're just your vision is, you've got such tunnel vision that it's impossible to realize the gravity of it, and I hope it stays that way. I hope we stay going 100 miles an hour, and that we don't come up for air very often. And I tell our players all the time in this program, you'll get 5 pats on the back, and that's after each bowl win and the day that you graduate. Other than that, we're into working and not smelling the roses and all of that cute little fun stuff. We're into grinding and working, and the fun is in the winning, and the fun is in the graduating.
On your far right, Anwar.
Coach over here. Coach, so now that you're here and your staff is in place, can you just talk to me a little bit about how you approach the transition with the players, maybe the same way you did with Houston, coming in with guys came for another coach, and now they have you. And the second part of that question is now that you're here, does every position become an open position in battle come the spring?
Yeah, talk me through your first part of that question.
How do you approach that transition where you've had guys who maybe came for a previous coach and now you guys are?
Oh yeah, again, anybody that tells you, that a young man should choose a school because of the school and not the people, I think that's wrong. You're gonna remember, if you're a college football player, you're gonna remember, in my opinion, two things of your college experience, not just college football experience, but college experience. And one is the winning. How much did you win? Was all your blood, sweat, and tears worth it? And then two is the people, and those people include the coaches. But at the end of the day, people come and go in our lives all the time, and it's our job as coaches to make sure that, although we're going to push them to limits that they've never been pushed before in their lives, we've also got to build very, very trusting, loving relationships with them. And I've seen it done marvelously when we got to Ohio State. I saw it done marvelously when we got to Houston, and I imagine it'll the plan is, at least, for it to be the same here. And I'm glad you asked me about kind of the depth chart. Yeah, our assistants have watched some film from last year just because they've got to know strengths and weaknesses of certain guys and where to put them and what positions and all that. I have not watched one snap of film from last year's season, and nor will I. And there are no starters. There are no anything. There are players, and this is a meritocracy in this program, and you get what you earn around here, and that earning starts on January 17th, our first day of winter conditioning. And you want to earn my respect, you want to earn our respect, you want to earn playing time. You be the hardest working, toughest guy in winter conditioning, and you'll have an opportunity to play for us.
Over here on the left, Chuck.
Tom, quick two-part question. One, just take me back to how long you've known Tim Beck. I think it maybe goes back to when he was coaching high school in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and beyond the endorsements and beyond the relation, the alignment, kind of the background, makeup, skill set that really made him the right guy for this job. And second, very quickly, you've got your staff in place, but how, in terms of adding analysts, support staff, people like that, what's your vision going forward? Do you see that taking place?
That was a quick two-part question. I'd hate to see your long three-part questions. Yeah. So Tim and I do go way back. Known each other very casually. In his ascension through the football ranks from high school to University of Kansas to then when he got to Nebraska. As an offensive guy, I like to study guys that are kind of on the cutting edge, and so I would hijack film, wherever I could get it from, and so I studied Nebraska quite frequently, and then just called him, and we struck up a relationship. We recruited Texas together, so when we were in the same area recruiting at the same time, we'd get together over dinner and talk football, and so I think the thing that sold me on Tim Beck was his relationships with his players. The fact that, again, two young men that I love dearly and care about deeply, and J.T. Barrett and Cardell Jones gave him the big thumbs up. So his relationships with players, and then his eagerness to adapt and learn, and his eagerness to want to learn from me and kind of say, to be, I don't know how old Tim is. I think he's probably close to 50 or something like that. To say, hey, I'm 50, but I still want to learn. I still want to grow. And then, what was the second part of your short two-part question?
Analysts.
Oh yeah, support staff. I'm glad you brought that up. It's been a mission of mine since we got here. Again, and I go back to administrations win championships, and I've been told yes for everything that I've asked for around here, whether that's a renovation of this building that we're in, from everywhere from graphics to locker room to weight room to support staff. You know, we identified an area that we were deficient in as compared to the teams that are in the national championship hunt every year, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, the Florida States of the world. You know, we needed to create positions in our recruiting and support staff departments, and we've done that, and we've hit the ground running. We've got a lead graphics position open. We've got a director of creative content, or I don't know all these fancy titles, but we're going to get an army down there just like the rest of the big boys in college football do too, and we're going to get this facility in very short order to the point where it's as good, if not better, than any in the country.
All the way to the back right, Craig.
Tom, you mentioned the loving, trusting relationship with players, and then I've also heard you talk about a grind and not fun and all of that stuff. Have you found over time, and your coaches as well, that one kind of morphs into the other, that they understand that through the grind, the loving, trusting stuff happens, or does it happen organically, or does that happen through time where you're having to reinforce it with these guys?
You've got both. Both. It happens organically, but I think when you see it, a moment to reinforce it, you jump on it. And again, the job of a coach is very parental. And if there's any good parents out there, you love your parents, you die for your parents, but you didn't necessarily like them all the time either. And they were probably very hard on you and probably had very high expectations of you. And so that's kind of the approach that we take is we're going to be extremely demanding of you, because we know that our job is to get the most out of you, not just on the field, but in the classroom and in the community, so that when you do come of age and you're wise enough to realize the things that we did for you, helped you in life, you'll appreciate it. And so I just think that's the only way to go. And again, same with, you know, a teenage son or daughter. I mean, there's going to be some pushback, and there's going to be some arguing, and there's going to be some questioning and all of that. That doesn't happen overnight. But you know, when they know that you love them, and that the reason you're so hard on them is because you want the very best for them, and that you know how to get the very best for them, then the sky's the limit.
In the middle, Max.
Tom, you've worked with Yancey at a bunch of different schools. Called him your culture coach. What makes him special as a strength coach? And then second question, with recruiting these next few weeks, kind of what's your strategy? Do you have to stick to guys that you know basically in order to avoid misses, or how do you kind of attack recruiting over the rest of the month here?
Yeah, Yancey McKnight is, again, I was not going to take the Houston job if he would not have come with me. I'm not going to say I wouldn't have taken this job if he wasn't going to come with me. He's pretty important. I don't know if he's that important. No, he's. It's amazing in this profession when you click with somebody from an ideological standpoint, and you sit and you talk philosophy and what makes teams great and how you build championships and how you maximize players' potential. And just immediately we were saying, when we first got to know each other, we were saying the same things and we believed in the same things. And it was a match made in heaven, so to speak. He's my soulmate when it comes to coaches. You know, I think we kind of share so many of the same beliefs, and then to be able for him to then have this brain that works so differently than mine from a physical performance standpoint. I don't know any of that stuff. Yancey doesn't know what cover 3 is either, nor should he. You know, and so again, to be able to trust someone and that's as well dialed into the science of everything, but yet shares your beliefs and your ideals of how to build championships, I think is paramount. And then I'm glad you brought up the second part of your question about this signing class. We're gonna swing for the fences. There's no doubt. But if there's any testimony to the fact that relationships in recruiting are the most important thing, it's during a coaching transition. And as much as we have to sell here, from the academics to the coaching staff, to the style of play, to the championships that we're going to win, to the city of Austin, to the rich storied tradition and history, what we don't have is relationships with a lot of these guys. And so that makes it very, very difficult to get in. And the metrics and analytics, for those of you, numbers junkies, they show that a coach's first class during the transition, I would argue it's not your first class, it's your first class is the one we'll sign next year, has the most attrition, it has the most misses in terms of guys that can't play, and it has the most off-field issues. And I actually went back and researched when we took over at Ohio State, and that 2012 class, there were 19 kids that signed on signing day, not counting mid-year guys, and of those 19, 3 of them played significantly. That was it. And that was the 5th ranked class in the country. And so we're going to concern ourselves a whole lot more with this class on the relationships that we already have, that the kids that we know will fit into what we do and what we expect around here, and kids that want to be at the University of Texas and want to compete for championships at this kind of place.
Your far back right, Chip.
Tom, Shane Buechele wouldn't be exactly classified as a running quarterback. Your thoughts on what, if that can be developed or not? And then secondly, I was told you have a plan for every part of this program. And in terms of the alignment, do you want your own academic services person? Do you want someone in the nutrition area who's just working with football? What specifically did you tell Fenves and Perrin that you want for the alignment?
Right. Good question. One about Shane. You don't, for our offense to work, you don't have to be Braxton Miller. You don't, or Michael Vick. You have to at least make the defense pay if they ignore the quarterback in the run game. So you don't have to hit home runs. As long as you're hitting singles and doubles, then you're going to have success in this offense. And from what I know, just from what I've seen on TV, that Shane has the ability to do that. And then secondly, I think it's important that, again, as I touched upon in the opening press conference, that everybody that touches your team has an impact in whether you win or lose, and they have an impact in the messages that are driven home to your team. And so, the academic deal was something that was already kind of in transition a little bit, and I appreciate Mike Perrin allowing me to have some say in that transition. Got to know our nutritionist very well. I think she does a heck of a job. I'm going to fight to give her one more person, though, that will be a full-time person that's football only. And then Anthony Pass in the training room does an unbelievable job. We've had a relationship before, and comes very highly recommended from the people that have worked with him, and my dealings with him have been A1A up until this point. And then kind of the other two that I go through are video and equipment. And Captain Video, Mike Arias, was here 17 years ago when I was here, and he's kind of an institution around here, and same with Chip Robertson. Old Chipper's been here for a long time too, and two guys that I trust very much. So I think the biggest changes were obviously in the support staff and the assistant coaches, and then having an input in the transition of the academic services. But beyond that, I think everybody is aligned thus far, and that's part of my job too, is to teach the alignment and to teach what the expectations are.
Over here on your left, Kirk.
Yeah, Tom, as far as Tim Beck, it sounds like he's the first guy you targeted and the one you absolutely wanted for OC. Is that true? Did he ever call plays at Ohio State, and was he kind of handcuffed under Bo Pelini at Nebraska?
You can ask him those questions. I don't know what the play calling dynamics were on a, you're talking about 2 years at 900 to 1,000 plays. I don't know if one of them was ever his that he said out loud, and maybe. So I don't want to get caught in some misinformation again, but he was never the primary play caller there, but you're right. The list was very short, and it was him and him first, and if I couldn't get him, then it would have to go to Plan B. But he was definitely Plan A, based on what I know of him as a teacher, as a person, and as a offensive coordinator.
Back on your right, Taylor.
Coach, you kind of touched on this, but with facilities playing such a big role in recruiting and with team camaraderie being around the program, what are your thoughts on where Texas is with its facilities currently, and what type of changes are you looking to make here?
We're behind, but not by much. Nothing that multi-million-dollar facelift can't fix, and so that's what we're in the process of doing right now. Downstairs, all the graphics are off the wall. We'll kind of update those, and again, this is a place that has unbelievable tradition and history, and we're never going to forsake that, in the name of upgrading facilities. So we've got to find a way to intertwine all of the history and tradition here, but also make this a place that is appealing to 17-year-old young men. And we had a walkthrough quite literally on Tuesday. Myself, Fernando Lovo, my chief of staff, and then Mike Perrin and Arthur Johnson, and we went around and we took notes and we said, all right, let's go. We got to obviously go through all the red tape of getting it approved and all that, but we're full speed ahead on getting all of that done.
Stand on the right, Alex.
Coach, just to stay on the facilities thing, is obviously something fans are pretty interested in. You said whenever you took down some of those notes, what were some of the areas that you felt needed addressing the most as far as facilities and renovations? And also, is that something you got to go to boosters and stuff and ask for cash for, or do you just get it from the university? Like, how does that whole thing work?
I don't know how that works. That's kind of not my job. I think I'll probably ask at some point, but my job is to tell President Fenves and Mike Perrin what we need to compete at a championship level. And so obviously to me, the graphics in the hallways, we need to modernize a lot of that. We need to modernize our locker room. That's a place where our kids spend a big portion of their time, and then we need to update the weight room and reconfigure it a little bit. And so those are kind of areas A, B, and C, and we're, again, full steam ahead on all of those.
Stay right that side, Bob.
Coach, just on player relationships, since that first meeting, I know there were a couple guys that came to the press conference, but how much have you talked individually with players? What's been the kind of message to those guys, and how much contact have you had with the players since then, and will you have one-on-one meetings with them, and how will all that kind of play out?
We didn't do any scheduled one-on-one meetings simply because of when I first got here. It was, I was on the road recruiting for 2 weeks, and then they're in finals, and so it was tough to find days and times. But I had a lot of kids come in individually and visit with me, upwards of probably 30 or 40, and some in small groups, 2 or 3 would come at a time, and some individually. So I got to know them a little bit, but I think it's important too that now that the staff is in place, that the position coaches start forming those relationships with the players too, and that, although I'm going to have a very tight relationship with all of our players, I've got to be the hammer too, and sometimes if you get too close, it's difficult to be the hammer, and the real close relationships come in that position meeting room.
Left, Brian.
Tom, going back to what they were asking over there, because this is really important.
I feel like I'm slouching because can you guys still hear me when I? Is this better? This is too stiff.
That's perfect. There you go.
Really,
there you
right
go.
here.
There you go. It gets easier as you go on.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you're talking about adding graphics guys, a full person nutritionist, I mean, you're talking about an infrastructure that Alabama, Ohio State, other schools have, but this school, which has kind of been a mom and pop operation for many, many years, has never had. And my question is that, are you shocked? Were you shocked when you come in and you see the place from the outside, but when you get in here and you really realize how far behind Texas really is in some of these areas? I mean, what'd you make of all that?
I made that we've got work to do, and that we changed the University of Houston in 23 short months, more than anybody thought was possible, not just from a wins and losses standpoint, but from an infrastructure standpoint as well. And I have no doubt that with the support of Dr. Fenves and Mike Perrin, that we'll do the same here in a very, very, very short time.
Do you expect it to be a one-year deal, or do you think this is a multi-year deal? Or?
Well, it'll take more than 1 year, certainly. Yeah, I think you should always have some capital project in football going on all the time, and that may of varying levels. But it's kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Mm-hmm. As soon as you get done, you got to start over, right? And so you got to constantly be doing things and going back to, okay, hey, we did that 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's time to go back and redo that. As we're now just finishing up X project, we're starting on Y project, and Z project is waiting down the road.
Got time for 2 last ones, Roger and then Mike.
Tom, how much has it changed that support staff that you're talking about? Because you get 9 assistants and everybody else does, but you get football analysts. You've got, I don't know, a guy that could not be a coach and call plays in the national championship game. I mean, do you want to have football guys in your basement grinding it out that aren't necessarily coaches as well? How has that all kind of changed the arms race?
That part of it is hard for me to swallow a little bit. I was brought up, obviously I was a graduate assistant, and that's how you made your way in this game, in this profession, was you went and you did the grunt work for a couple years, and then you took a 1 AA job and you grinded it out, and then you just worked your way up, and I think more is always good to a certain point. When the more becomes cumbersome or the more becomes untrustworthy, then you got a problem. But again, if Alabama has it and Clemson has it and then Ohio State and Michigan have it, then we're going to have it. And that's the reality of college football. And until they tell us that we can't, we're going to. And because that one analyst that finds that one nugget that makes you call that one play because you saw this one tip in that one alignment, and your DB steps in front of a pass for the game-winning interception, it was worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars to win that championship game on that play. And so I think that's the approach that everybody's taking, is that we need to uncover every stone, and the more eyes you have, the more experience you have, you can do that to a certain point. You better be careful who you bring in, because you want to be able, again, to trust the people that are in your program.
Last one on the left, Mike.
Tom, I hate to end this on a negative note, but there were some serious concerns among fans last night raised that there weren't enough vegetables in your shopping cart. And you talk about a nutritionist. Is your family getting the nutrition that it needs?
I'm glad this is the last one. There was a fruit tray. My wife and kids are coming tonight. We've got a temporary housing kind of thing. We've got a little 2-bedroom apartment on South Lamar. Can't be more than 900 square feet. And I've got my wife, my 13-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son, and 3-year-old son coming. So just wrap your mind around that for a second. I think they're bringing the little yap yap dog we have too. And my wife said, we're not going to get there till late, so we won't have time to shop for groceries. Go grocery shopping. What do you want me to get? Now figure it out, whatever you think the kids will want to eat. It's been a while since I've been grocery shopping, so that's what I picked. I can assure the fans of the University of Texas that I will do a much better job of grocery shopping the next time that I am assigned that task by my family. We good? All right, hook 'em.
Thank you, Coach.